It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show. It's Expresso right here on SABC3.
Absolutely, and happy Monday to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, following the Cape Town launch of Thando Manana's book, Being a Black Springbok, we got to sit down with the SABC sports commentator to unpack some of his most pertinent experiences as being a black sportsman in a transforming South Africa.
Because of South Africa's troubled history with political oppression, we are still finding that success of black people are marked with the classifier, the first black person to accomplish such an achievement. That's why stories of black people in these spaces are important to take note of. And we are happy to have former Springbok rugby player Thando Manana to tell us about his experience of being a black Springbok, which also happens to be the title of his new book, co-written with sports editor Sbu Mjikeliso. Let's talk about the title of your book, Being a Black Springbok. For you, it happened during a time, where you were considered the third black Springbok back in 2000. Is that where the motivation for it came for you?
Look, not necessarily, but I think, at the time of writing, when it came to me having the name of the book, I sort of reflected on where I'd come from, on the journey that I'd had to endure, from a boy from New Brighton in Port Elizabeth, having to play his youth rugby for Eastern Province, but then getting an opportunity in an Afrikaner-dominated environment in Kimberley, where you had Tswana people as well. So I sort of looked at myself and I said, a true reflection would be certainly one that says, you made it, you've made the junior Springbok, but then you've made the pinnacle of anyone's sort of career that they look forward to making, and that's being a Springbok. But most importantly, I was comfortable with the skin color that I have, which is I'm an African, ethnic African black man of this country. And why not saying that my journey is a journey of a black man, it's a journey of a black boy, son of the soil in this country that made it to the top. And why not seek to inspire the other black people, because race is still remaining the biggest factor that one is a judge in this country.
I'm with you on that, and you know what, it took you hard work to get there, and we're still going through a lot of transformation, and we've seen increase in, in terms of the numbers of color players. But do you feel like it's any easier for players these days?
I don't think so. I think the term transformation, which you just used, is a term that one always asks himself if the country has embraced the word transformation, if they've certainly, see that there is a need to transform, across all society, because the talent is right there. It's not for any individual or any specific, color or person in this country, whether you're pink, green or yellow. But I think for me also is the players themselves. They take a lot of pounding from the word of actually being labeled as either a quota player or transformation player within the squad. Remember, South African Rugby Union themselves had the STP, which was a strategic transformation plan, which seek to sort of up the ante and level the playing fields where opportunities were given, but also given throughout the youth structures as well as junior structure up to the senior level, which for them is still their target to make sure that they do have a representative side, but most importantly, players that are there on merit. Certainly the backlash has been there, especially on the players of color. Should they make that little bit of mistake, everyone pounds on that. But for me, I think they have to remain focused to the core, and the core is certainly to transform a South African rugby team.
And is that, at the essence, the message you hope people take from your book?
Certainly. It's trials and tribulation. And I think for me, this is a book that, as parents, who have aspiring youngsters who seek to play the game at a young level. Kids know nothing of transformation, of being labeled a quota player. But I think it is also a duty for the parents, where my parent was not involved in my, growing up stage, especially rugby terms. But this time around, they are there. They take these kids to the Model C schools nowadays. So they should follow up and see the progress. But most importantly, give support to the kids, something that we didn't have. In so doing, then the parents of that kid is aware of the ins and outs, what is happening on the field and outside of the field, because they witness each and every step that the kid takes. That's one of the things that black parents, they don't do. They don't support their own kid, and then they blame the system, let alone the kids also taking from what the parents are saying and start blaming the system as having to fail them. Yet there were people like myself and many more, the Ashwin Willems of this world, where they had to endure pain throughout, but realizing when you reach to the pinnacle of that career, you sort of look back and see that there's very few coming through. And for me, it is to inspire to say, come through. This is a sport for everyone. It's a sport that is played between the white four lines. It has no color or creed, but most important is about the talent of the youngster.
Oh, I absolutely love that. Well, Thando, thank you so much for joining us this morning and for sharing this. And of course, if you'd like to read more about this and more about the biographical stories from Thando Manana's life, then this is a book you need to have. It's called Being a Black Springbok, and it's available from all major bookstores.